Hi, this is Josie Leach, and this is my final in the 698 Master's Portfolio class with UAS, the Educational Technology Program. This is my final on my reflection for the program that we were in. We referenced some artifacts that we had in other classes. I foolishly deleted some of my previous WordPress sites and I was not able to recover them, so I had to refer to some of the finals that I had saved in my personal folders and loaded them online and just reflected whenever I needed to on whatever subject we were talking about for that week. So throughout the class we had a weekly reflection, of course. My focus or my background is technology. I've been in IT for over 18 years, so I found educational technology was something that I could, that I love, something that I related to. So I happily completed this program. So for reflection one, we talked about philosophy, and philosophy is something that is intimidating to some students. I'm not sure why. I've always felt like philosophy was a good thing, being able to give my own opinion about whatever was going on, always trying to use objective, factual views as opposed to something emotional. So I like being able to do that. I think I do well with that. And then week two was human development. Of course, in our educational careers, we're teaching, and teaching is core to human development. We strive to start students out at the same place very early on in school. We find that students have learning disabilities, like myself and my children. We have dyslexia. So even though we start at the same place, we have to have some assistance here and there to learn a different way. But the end goal is always the same. And then reflection 3 was differentiation, like DI. Differentiated instruction goes along with the IEP that my children had to have for dyslexia. They had the same homework, but one or two of them might have had different accommodations with math or having the instructions read to them as opposed to reading them themselves. And as they grew, the accommodation shrank, and then they leveled out in elementary school, and all of them in middle school didn't need any kind of IEPs. So that little bit of help that they had gave them a solid foundation, and I totally believe in the student-centric learning, and I think the DI way of doing things is wonderful. Content knowledge, of course we used the template, the Learning by Design template, to make sure we met all of our core ideas. We were aligned with our state's goals. So I think the content knowledge is good. And content is what helps our students remember things. If they learn very dry material, like in math, they might not remember that. But if they learn something relevant to them, like counting money or how to solve a problem, then that later on, because it was interesting to them, they are able to remember how to solve a problem later. So I think content is very important in learning. Assessment is another important topic. We always said in management, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So assessment is very important. Assessment lets you know where you start at and where you're going and how you end up. So it lets you know how the student's learning, and it lets you know how you're doing as a teacher, where you might need to improve or you can shrink some. So I think assessment is a wonderful tool. Reflection is the way to go. And then the week 6 and 7 were both kind of community weeks. The first one, management learning, I felt like was more focused towards the teacher. As a teacher, we need to reach out to each other. We need to be able to have the groups where you sit and you do your lessons plans, or you talk about how to deal with a tough subject, or maybe a new program that's coming out. So I think that learning communities, teacher communities, are wonderful in those aspects. It helps you grow as a teacher. When you see how somebody else does something as opposed to the way you do it all the time, or how you learned it, it's a wonderful way to grow. And then week 7 I thought was more focused towards the students. So the student needs a strong network. They need a strong community. With all the stuff going on in today's world with students, you know, going in the schools and shooting because they were bullied or because they didn't fit in, I think this is where the need for a community would help. I think if a student has just a couple of small friends, or a community where they can reach out and say, hey, I'm having a tough time with this, I'm having a tough time with life, having a community of just a few people will help him be able to deal with that, and realize that high school is very temporary. It only lasts for a couple of years. And looking back, most of us realize the problems that we thought were so huge in high school were minute compared to what we deal with as adults. Professionalism is something that I think is a huge topic in any industry. People don't dress right sometimes, they don't act right sometimes, they don't understand not to give your opinion during class. I think politics is so big. Like, I really don't think that politics, unless you're in a political class, should be taught. Children should not hear what your opinion is. They should only learn what is being taught in the lesson plan. Of course, you can have side conversations with children, but I just think that some teachers don't understand the impact they have on students that come from different backgrounds or different cultures when they say something that might be new to a student. We have a child that's in a high school where he has a teacher that constantly gave her opinion about you know, the war, economics, all kinds of stuff, and that's not what he was there for. He felt like it affected his grade, and I think it took time away from what the focus should be. So I think professionalism is something that we should really reflect on. And technology, of course, I've already said it. Technology is huge to me. I love new computers. I love new programs. I think we're always trying to better something. There's different ways we do things, different ways we measure with assessments. So I think programs are wonderful. I think games like Minecraft are wonderful. But there needs to be some kind of guidance. Students need to understand what happens when someone approaches them online, because it happens every day. They should understand what to do, what not to do. When they need to tell someone about it, they need to be comfortable with it, saying, hey, you know, this happened. I don't know what to do. So we need to create that environment for them. I think technology has done wonderful things with distance education. I would not have been able to finish any of my degrees without distance classes. So the technology that we have with the language translation, the assistive technology with physically challenged students, I think those are all wonderful. They allow students to participate in the classroom in the same grade. They allow students to work on things that they wouldn't be able to work on without the technology. They're able to participate in programs. So I think the technology is wonderful with that aspect. Makerspace was one of the new ideas that I learned during this program. I think I might have heard about it, but it was the first time I'd ever really seen it laid out. And I think it's wonderful. I think those programs that encourage students to build without limits teaches children the growth mindset, where they continue to grow and like the challenges. They feel the sense of achievement when they complete a task or a level. So I think that that's wonderful. So I think that Makerspace is a great way, a great program. And I feel like all the tools that I've learned throughout this 2 years, I think it's been, in the master's program will help with my teaching career that I will hopefully start next year. So with that, I will end this master's portfolio final and say thank you, Dr. Virgil. We've done most of our classes with Dr. Lee. It was a little bit of a change, but I've enjoyed the program. I've enjoyed most of the students that I've been in with these classes are the same ones that I've been in other classes, so I appreciate that. So once again, I thank you at UAS for allowing me to finish my degree, and I enjoyed the class. Thank you.